Let's get a response now from the chairs of the Intelligence Committees, Democrat Dianne Feinstein from the Senate, Republican Mike Rogers from the House. And Senator Feinstein, let me begin with you. You heard Mr. Greenwald and Senator Udall right there. They believe that the balance between privacy and national security is out of whack with these programs. Your response?
Well, of course, balance is a difficult thing to actually identify what it is. But I can tell you this. These programs are within the law. The business records section is reviewed by a federal judge every 90 days. It should be noted that the document that was released, that was under seal, which reauthorized the program for another 90 days, came along with a second document that placed and discussed the strictures on the program. That document was not released. So here's what happens with that program. The program is essentially walled off within the NSA. There are limited numbers of people who have access to it. The only thing taken, as has been correctly expressed, is not content of a conversation, but the information that is generally on your telephone bill, which has been held not to be private personal property by the Supreme Court. If there is strong suspicion that a terrorist outside of the country is trying to reach someone on the inside of the country, those numbers then can be obtained. If you want to collect content on the American, then a court order is issued. So the program has been used. 2 cases have been declassified. One of them is the case of David Headley, who went to Mumbai to the Taj Hotel and scoped it out for the terrorist attack. The second is Nazibullah Zazi, who lived in Colorado, who made the decision that he was going to blow up a New York subway, who went to a beauty wholesale supply place, bought enough hydrogen peroxide to make bombs, was surveilled by the FBI for 6 months, traveled to go to New York to meet with a number of other people who were going to carry out this attack with him, and were arrested by the FBI, who has pled guilty and in federal prison. Here's the point, and this is why this is so difficult. I flew over the World Trade Center going to Senator Lautenberg's funeral, and in the distance was the Statue of Liberty. And I thought of those bodies jumping out of that building, hitting the canopy. Part of our obligation is keeping America safe. Human intelligence isn't going to do it, because you can't, it's a different culture, it's a fanaticism that isn't going to come forward. And so this kind of strictly overseen, it's overseen by the Justice Department, by inspectors general, by audits, by a 90-day review by the court, is looked at as a method. I'm very happy. If there's a better way, we will certainly look at it.
Let me bring that to Congressman Rogers, because you've also said you believe these programs are effective, Mr. Chairman. But what about this idea raised by Senator Udall that you reopen the Patriot Act and put more limits on particularly the phone record collection program, because he says that that hasn't helped. That's his suspicion, at least.
Well, I can tell you in the Zazi case in New York, it's exactly the program that was used. And remember, all of these programs, this is really important, George. I mean, really important. They are not, the National Security Agency is not listening to Americans' phone calls, and it is not reading Americans' emails. None of these programs allow that. As a matter of fact, the Patriot Act, and that part of that 702 says it is expressly prohibited by law that you can read and wholly surveil domestic email traffic in the United States. So, you know, the inflammatory nature of the comments doesn't fit with what Dianne and I know this program really does. And let's just talk about the phone records just real quickly. What this is, and the reason this happened is after 9/11, we realized there was a big hole in our ability to fully identify all of the players in that terrorist plot. And one of it was by the fact that these business records, the phone billing information, is destroyed by these companies. They can't, expense-wise, it's really difficult for them to hold it. So this is what happened. The court said, put all of that information in a box and hold that information. And when you want to access that information, you have to use this very specific court-ordered approval process, which means it has to be a foreign person believed to be on a foreign land. So some notion that they can see a name that even comes out of that, by the way, this is important, no name comes out of that search. So even if they get a number, it doesn't have a name on it. This that allows them to do further investigation. But the number of times it's accessed is it's a fraction of a fraction, number one. And number two, no one can data mine that information. That's what's so frustrating to those of us who know this program.
Well, that's what I was just going to get to. Both of you know so much more than any other Americans. And one of the things you heard from Senator Udall is the desire for more public information. Now, he believes that the administration has not been misleading generally, the committee and the public. But I want to play an exchange that was in the Intelligence Committee in March when James Clapper was questioned by your colleague, Senator Wyden.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
Senator Feinstein, I have to confess, I have a hard time squaring that answer with what we learned this week.
Well, I think this is this is very hard. There is no more direct or honest person than Jim Clapper, and I think both Mike and I know that. You can misunderstand the question. This is one of the dilemmas of talking about it. He could have thought the question had content or something, but it is true that this is a wide collection of phone records, as Mike said, no name, no content, but the number to number, the length of time, the kind of thing that's on the telephone bill. And we have to deal with that.
So what do we do going forward? What do we do going forward? Senator McCain has said, and we heard Senator Udall as well, that maybe there should be a public hearing on this program and the range of the programs that are surveilling that includes some surveillance of some data from Americans. Are you open to that, Senator Feinstein? And then Chairman Rogers, you comment as well.
Yeah, I am open to it, and I have to think about this. We had an Intelligence Committee meeting on Thursday, which I opened up to everybody, and 27 senators came. You know, we informed them that every senator, the material is available. They can come and see it. One of the strictures with highly classified stuff is no staff. I think that should be changed so that Intelligence Committee staff can come in with the member and go over and review the material. But we have had lots of hearings on this, and I think Senator Wyden knows this and has been respectful of it. And I'm open to doing a hearing every month if that's necessary. And I'm open to doing an open hearing. Now, here's the rub. The instances where this has produced good, has disrupted plots, prevented terrorist attacks, is all classified. That's what's so hard about this. So that we can't actually go in there and, other than the two that have been released, give the public an actual idea of people that have been saved, attacks that have been prevented, that kind of thing.
Chairman Rogers?
You know, George, one of the things that we're charged with is keeping America safe and keeping our civil liberties and privacy intact. I think we've done both in this particular case. And the problem with this is if you tell our adversaries and our enemies in the counterterrorism fight exactly how we conduct business, they're not going to do business the same way ever again. It makes it more difficult. And so each one of these programs, and I think the Zazi case is so important because that's one you can specifically show that this was the key piece that allowed us to stop a bombing in the New York subway system. But these programs that are authorized by the court, by the way, only focused on non-United States persons overseas, that gets lost in this debate, are pieces of the puzzle. And you have to have all the pieces of the puzzle to try to put it together. That's what we found went wrong in 9/11. And we didn't have all the pieces of the puzzle, we found out subsequently, to the Boston bombings either. And so had we had more pieces of the puzzle, you can stop these things before they happen.
Finally, we're just about... Sorry, we're just about out of time. I just want a quick answer from each of you on this. We saw that a crimes investigation has been opened. Is it fair to say that both of you believe that this investigation should be pursued and the source, if found, should be prosecuted?
I absolutely believe that someone did not have authorization to release this information. And why that's so important, George, is because they didn't have all of the information. I know your reporter that you interviewed, Greenwald, says that he's got it all and now is an expert on the program. He doesn't have a clue how this thing works. Neither did the person who released just enough information to literally be dangerous. I argue that there's other methods. He could come to the committees if they had concern. We have IGs that they can go to in a classified way if they have concern. Taking a very sensitive classified program that targets foreign persons on foreign lands and putting just enough out there to be dangerous is dangerous to us, it's dangerous to our national security, and it violates the oath of which that person took.
Senator,
I absolutely think they should be prosecuted.
You too, Senator Feinstein?
I do.
Thank you both for your time this morning.